Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Uh, I missed the last part then. I broke it. I broke the flow. Okay, it remains like that. Namaste. Okay, we begin today from verse 23rd. The Supreme Purusha in this body is said to be the proximate witness, the supporter, the sustainer, the experiencer. It is the great Lord. In fact, it is the Supreme Self, right? The Supreme Being. So, what is this Purusha in the words of Swamiji? What is the blessed Purusha? Huh? Is that how they say? He says, is that so? And where is the blessed Purusha? Huh? That's what he has been presenting. I forgot. Okay, we are looking for identifying Purusha. We see matter, we see energy, we see Maya, we see Prakriti. And not only, and understand that Purusha is the only reality. This Supreme Purusha is said to be the indweller within the body, within everything. It's recognizable through the living creatures because they somehow they shine with sentience, and then we identify the being by identifying some sort of sentience, the plants, the animals, and the humans. But as we know, the Supreme Purusha as well shines within every inert object because the existence of every inert object is a demonstration of the Supreme Purusha, conceding existence to the inert beings, as sometimes I like to put. And somehow this Purusha is said to be the most subtle and the most intimate. It's so intimate, so intimate. It shines as the Aham, as the witnessing experience entity, the Ahamkara. But at the same time, it remains free and independent from the Ahamkara, supporting the Ahamkara, sustaining the Ahamkara, sustaining this experiencing entity, but hoping for the experience entity to recognize the Purusha element within itself as its true nature. It shows as well as the Supreme Intelligence, the Great Lord, Saguna Ishvara. And furthermore, it is the Nirguna Atma, the Supreme Self, the true nature of Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagata. So this is a very Upanishadic kind of verse in which, again, Krishna Guru is pointing to that which is the only reality. It's saying, what is this Purusha? It's like that. It's the most intimate thing to every Jiva Atma, human Jiva. And it sustains everything and supports everything. It blesses the body, mind, sense complex, turns it into a spike of human consciousness that somehow experiences its conscious existence, but unfortunately identifies with its inferior nature, the body mind. And this verse, they serve the purpose to point out to the fact that our true nature is that free and independent consciousness, Purusha, the only reality.
What are you preparing?
So Lord Krishna is, so to speak, training us, is giving a training program. What is the training? He's training us to disidentify from the Prakriti nature of ours to identify with the Purusha nature of ours. I want to talk a little bit about that because Swamiji and Vedanta in general presents the teachings as Viveka training, Viveka faculty of discern, separating, discriminating between Prakriti and spirit consciousness, Purusha. And then you have to say like, okay, now you are very much identified with your Prakriti nature, and now you have to find a way to destroy that identification and transfer that identification to Purusha. And this, according to Vedanta, is a process by which the individual must train the mind to remember the teachings until the mind, the ahankara, is properly established in its true nature as Purusha. So it is a training, yes, it's a training. This training from the angle of Vedanta teachings, Vedantic teachings, is what we call Nididhyasana, remembering the teachings, remembering the teachings, remembering the teachings, and educating the mind to stay there identified with its true nature. No? That is the Vedantic meditation, keeping the mind focused around those kind of homogeneous, similar thoughts around the nature of reality as Purusha. So this is a process of training. And that again goes to what we have said, I have mentioned yesterday, is it a kind of fake until you make? Not really that way, because the meditation has to go deep enough to search for something which logic alone can never really establish, as a full transfer of a sense of identity. So it's not just kind of trying to program oneself, because we were organically programmed to identify with the body mind. Now we need to find a way to reprogram ourselves. And this deprogram, it goes a very, very extended way by training the mind to think in terms of the pointers present in the Upanishads, But that which Vedanta calls the paroksha jnana, which is a direct and immediate vision of what you have learned already intellectually, is something difficult to explain. And no training, repetitions can really produce that. And I have a hard time to put in words how mysterious this direct knowledge is. And also the fact that this direct knowledge requires to deprogram the mind from this notion, I am the body mind. No question about that. But to have the mind established in Aham Brahmasmi, I am of the nature of Purusha, the only reality, requires much more than just reprogramming the mind to think in those terms, even though deprogram the mind from Aham Brahmasmi is a must. And then you go through the logic that supports this new concept, I am of the nature of Purusha, free, limitless, independent, conscious existence. And then one has to stay there. One has to stay there, knowing that logic alone is not going to make it work. But yet, in the deep silence of our Nididhyasana, this fact, this reality presents itself as a fact. And there we go. There we have a thing, a vision, a darshana that transforms the individual by producing a hard and fast self-knowledge. I don't know if I putting it in words without creating confusion. But I have been emphasizing lately more and more the need for Nididhyasana with my Brazilian group, and I guess also here among ourselves, because the logical training, the programming training, I am Brahman, alone is a good base, but to to conclude this process, one needs to go into deep meditation. So just to remember, Nisargadatta Maharaj used to send us different messages, and some of them were confusing because he was not explaining and resolve those apparent contradictions. I was reading his books for 10 years over and over again, and I could never really resolve certain contradictions. And one of the most fundamental contradictions is he would say, understanding is everything. Understanding is all. You need to understand. You are not a person. You are consciousness and blah, 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 blah. He would say, understanding is all. And then in another sentence, another paragraph, he would say, and you must meditate. You must meditate. You remember, Lynn? And you must meditate. Okay. So on the intellectual level, you must understand. But then once that is understood, this is indirect self-knowledge. And then you must meditate to turn indirect self-knowledge into direct self-knowledge. Okay, only then we can claim Aham Brahmasmi in a kind of successful way. So Krishna says, Purusha Tattva is of the nature of Satya, Nirvikara, Chetana, and so on. The Purusha, that Purusha do not search anywhere. So don't look for Purusha anywhere out there. You don't need to search for this Purusha the same way you don't need to search for space in on different containers, because space is all pervasive. So that's the process. And what's the nature of this Purusha? Its nature is opposite of the nature of Prakriti, as we have seen over and over again. Finally, we have to say, really speaking, the space is neither within the wall, the hall, not outside. The space is all pervasive. Likewise, Purusha is all over the place. Yet, strangely enough, due to the limitation of language, the wise, the sage will say, withdraw from outside, as if Purusha is not outside. If you search for Purusha, turn inside, turn your mind inside. It's as talking to the enclosed space in a small jar, as I was climbing the jar to look outside, looking for this space, Purusha, and so on. I said, no, just stay within the jar, okay? Because space is of the nature of all pervasiveness. Consciousness, likewise, is said to be the indweller inside the body. But finally enough, we come and say consciousness is outside the body as well. And then finally enough, Vedanta comes back and say the ultimate truth in this regard is that consciousness is not inside, not outside. The whole universe is within consciousness. Therefore, where is this consciousness? Is everywhere as a substratum, since it is universe is an appearing superimposition upon the screen of consciousness. If people want to say, where is this Purusha? Since we have established by logic that everything, every body, mind, sense complex, every configuration of prakriti is an appearance within consciousness, fundamentally as consciousness. And then if one asks, where is consciousness? Is within everything, and then you can counter question saying, just tell me where is it not. Therefore, it's called the absolute para, free from all limitations, not limited by time, space. And this Purusha, the consciousness alone, is the most intimate witness of everything happening inside of you and outside of you. Upadrasta is a beautiful word. Suppose I say consciousness is a witness like the sun. I give the example, the sun. The sun produces light, and we easily commit this mistake. The sun is the illuminator, and it's the one producing the ability to perceive and witness things. All right. And the sun is existing so far away. And if I talk about the light illuminating this hall here, our environment here, again, we think of the sun illuminating this one here. The same way as we say the bulb is illuminating here during the night. But the bulb is distant. The sun is very distant. But there is something about the light of the bulb and the light of the sun that is very intimate with every object it illumines and reveals. So this is to say that what illuminates is the light. It's not the sun or the bulb. And the light is something so intimate because it permeates everything, it permeates our mind. We talk about the light of consciousness. It's so intimate, producing this pramana, which is the ability to illumine, reveal, illumine, and know things within my mind and things outside of my mind. Therefore, this Purusha is everywhere. Krishna says this Purusha Atma is the witness, not remaining far away. So it is a witness principle which is intimately pervading the body, sustaining the body. The body-mind complex is somehow permeated by this principle called Purusha that somehow produce this spark of reflect consciousness. So this light of consciousness is so intimate, so close, so pervasive, producing the aham, the ahamkara, the mamakara, just as the light illuminating the hand. So this Purusha is illuminating my mind, the intellect. So it's the something which the most proximate, most intimate, the most intrinsic principle. It's our very nature. We cannot separate ourselves from Purusha. Purusha is there, not only sustaining us, but shining as Jivatma, which is identical to Paramatma in its true nature as Purusha. This Purusha pervades the body-mind, pervades even every cell of our body. The inert bulb is inert. The body-mind is a bundle of chemicals which does not have consciousness of its own. It's an inert bundle of chemicals. And somehow it appears to be conscious of its environment. It's conscious of its very body mind. It appears to be alive, animate, and sentient. But this body mind is made out of inert matter slash energies. So how come it appears to be sentient and conscious of its environment? It's due to Purusa, which somehow penetrates everything, pervades everything, and it seems to have uh, an affinity. Sometimes I call it an affinity or intimate with subtle bodies. And whenever Purusha finds a subtle body, it shines, to say, hey, here I am, look at me, recognize me. Okay? So I am the Purusha. I am the only reality. I am the one allowing you the status of witnessing, experiencing, knowing the world, the inner and the outer world. I am this Purusha, that which blesses the activities of the Prakriti. Prakriti may be very dynamic on certain more Rajasic constructs. Some animals are more Rajasic, some animals are more Tamasic, some human jivas are more Tamasic, some human jivas are more Rajasic. So this Purusha blesses the body mind. And because of these blessings, quote unquote, blessings, this inert body mind appears as conscious, appears as animate and alive. So the miracle of life, the miracle of self-aware existence. We have several Vedantic parallels, such as electricity running through the electrical grid of the house, producing all kinds of effects. It may produce heat in the winter, cold in the summer, and many other effects are produced depending on the instrument, on the device. But all these devices, they depend on the presence of electricity. So all Jiva constructs depend on Purusha to shine as a sentient, conscious, sentient being, let's say. Every organ is built to do a particular function in our inner construct, but only in the presence of consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is anugrahata, a blesser. It's consciousness that's producing the miracle of life, as if it's blessing. I'm giving you the blow, I don't know how you say it, of life. Huh? I bless the pranas to make this body alive for a certain period of time. And how does Purusha does these blessings? Not by showing hand and legs. It does not have legs and hands. It blesses by Sanidhya Matrana. That is said in the Kenopanishad. Let's see how Purusha blesses every being. Oh, we don't have the translation here, huh?
It's by its mere presence.
By its near presence, yeah. Yeah, by its near presence. This is a beautiful slogan. There are some Brazilian songs that have that kind of lyrics. Isn't it amazing, this Purusha, our true nature? Huh? And we need to understand that this Purusha, this conscious presence, produce life within our own body, mind, sense complex as well. It's not just producing life all around us, but we are not an isolate observer. We are integral part of this miracle. So it's somehow it is producing by its mere presence this conscious existence of the ahamkara. Okay, so the ahamkara is being blessed by this supreme power, which is Purusha, and it goes by life after life without recognizing this supreme power, and much less recognizing that it is its true, fundamental, essential, intimate nature. And the purpose of these teachings is to reveal this fact to all of us until we realize it directly. That is my true nature. I'm the one blessing everything I get in contact with. In fact, by my mere presence, I don't go anywhere because I'm all pervasive. But anything that touches me, it is blessed by my conscious existence, the only reality. These are all beautiful mantras. Krishna condensed this mantra in one word, Anumanta. Shrotasya Shrotam Manaso Mano Yadi. So he blessed all activities. When I say all activities, whether those activities are good or bad, moral or immoral, his consciousness, this Purusha, is not going to judge or discriminate. If there are good contentions to support it, oh no, shall I support this kind of activity? No, I condemn it. If they are bad activities, consciousness somehow by its nature will bless it. If they are bad action, consciousness will say no and withdraw support. No, it's not possible. It's not in the nature of consciousness. It's not in the nature of Purusha. It allows everything. The same way space accommodates everything, Purusha accommodates everything without any discrimination. The same way light is going to illumine anything, everything, without discrimination, regardless of being a good event or a bad event. Purusha is in the same way that principle which blesses everything, regardless of the kind of action or activity. Therefore, it's called Anumanta, the indiscriminate blesser. Then Bharta. Bharta means what? Bharta literally means husband, but not here. Purusha is not a husband. Here, this concept of Bharta, because it is the supporter. And in the family, in the Hindu family, as a parallel analogy or example, the husband is the provider, is the supporter of the family. So we should not take it literally. Purusha is not a husband, but it's the one providing the miracle of life to every configuration possible by the prakriti of Maya. Therefore, Purusha alone is Satyam. It has independent pre-existence. Prakriti is Mithya. Therefore, it borrows the blessings from Purusha. Without the blessings of Purusha, Prakriti is non-existent. Therefore, we must be a devotee of Purusha, the blesser of all blessings. Therefore, it is the support, the sustainer. Then Bhakta, and the very same Purusha appears as the Bhakta. This Purusha is also called the Bhakta, the one true experiencer, the true knower behind, so to speak, behind the entity Jivatma who appears as the experiencer and the knower. But without the support of Purusha, this entity cannot experience and know anything. And then what is the free independent principle? The Bhakta, the Ahamkara, who do actions to experience its results, or the true knower and experience, that without which the Bhakta cannot, the Ahamkara cannot experience anything. That is the true seer, the true experience, the true knower. From the standpoint of an ignorant person, I am really only Sakshi, the witnessing, and I am the illuminator of pleasure and pain and envy and all anger, all different modes of the mind or emotions. Anger belongs to what? The Prakriti mind. Therefore, what should I say? I am the illuminator of this or that state of mind. I am the illuminator. The illuminator in this passage here is used as the witnessing, okay? The witnessing principle. The witness is that which is experiencing, observing, but it has to be very impersonal. That's why we have in the court all those witnessing, giving their testimonial that should be absolutely impartial, not emotionally involved. The lawyers must be not involved emotionally with the case as well. So the Bhakta is the experiencer from the standpoint of ignorant person. I am really only the Sakshi, and I am the illuminator, the witness of pleasure and pain, and all other modes or states of mind, such as anger, envy, and so on. So all these states belong to what? To Prakriti. Consciousness is that which reveals any and everything, including the states of Ananda, those Samadhi states. So Prakriti is producing those states. Those states belong to Prakriti. But Purusha is the one revealing and witnessing that state. When we are doing our meditations, we go into a deep silence and a beautiful state. We have to remember that. I am the light. The true illuminator is my true nature. This peace of mind is something within Prakriti. Therefore, net, that's not the ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is I, the illuminator, I, the witnessing Purusha, Sakshi, the illuminator of all states. But with the transferred attributes of the mind, this Purusha appears as a Bhakta. So who is the true Bhakta, the experiencer? Is Purusha. Even though Purusha is not an experiencing entity, but the scripture says that the true, absolutely Bhakta, the experience, is Purusha, because it's Purusha which is blessing the Ahamkara to experience in the world. If Purusha would withdraw its support, the Ahamkara cannot witness or experience and know anything. So therefore, it is Purusha, the true Bhakta, the true knower, the true experience, but always with the aid of an instrument of experience and knowledge. the jiva. When we say that Purusa appears as the Ahamkara Bhakta, it means what? A seeming Bhakta, as though suffering them, their attributes. Seeming Bhakta as though suffering their attributes, I would say. He said that the Ahamkara is going to appear as the Bhakta, but the true Bhakta is not involved because it's not an experiencing entity, but it experiences through something which belongs an experienced entity. This experienced entity, the Jivatma, must understand its true nature. The true nature is not an experienced entity, and the experienced entity is going to experience the gunas, is going to experience the attributes of the elements, and it's going to experience according to one's raga dvesha. Therefore, it's going to enjoy and suffer the contact with the Purusha, the world of the gunas. So it is a seeming bhakta. Although, as though it suffers the contact, but it is a witnessing, hooked and involved with whatsoever it touched and witnessed due to its raga dvesha. So therefore, what the real nature of this witnessing Purusha is Maheshwara. Really speaking, for a wise person, this Purusha is Maheshwara. Maheshwara means what? Is Vatantrat. It's a liberated, free entity. So body alone is bound entity because the body is made out of pure Prakriti. Therefore, it's affected by other bodies, other kind of objects of experience, subtle objects or physical objects, tangible or intangible. We have seen it earlier. It's guna-made object, guna composed object. Body is matter, mind is matter. Therefore, the body-mind complex of the Jivatma will be definitely affected by the contact with the Prakriti world. Nobody can stop it. In summer, the opposite pairs are going to be experienced regardless of how enlightened Mahatma may be. In summer, body will be experienced with sweat. In the winter, body will be experienced as cold. The body will shiver. And in old days, in old age, the body will decline and collapse. So all these chains belong to Prakriti. The body will lose its mental faculties, physical faculties, pranic faculties by and by. And as we know, the mind goes the same way, because mind is made out of Prakriti, and with the interaction of the world, the interaction with Prakriti, it's also changed or influenced by its field of interaction. If you read about earthquake, and some say something very nice here, children are starving, however great you may be, no matter how profoundly free a Mahatma may be, the mind of the Mahatma is going to empathize with the situation, the experience, the pain of those starving children or suffering individuals. Nobody can stop it. No, but it's all karma, and you are just witnessing consciousness without any emotional involvement. That refers to our true nature. If you know your true nature as a witnessing conscious existence free from emotional hooks or involvements, that's good. That's going to help you to minimize the way you're going to interact with difficult situations. It's going to offer us that balance, that strength to deal with suffering, keeping a certain degree of objectification. But human nature is in human nature. The Mahatma is going to see people suffering after a huge earthquake and is going to empathize. Therefore, body is bound by prakriti, mind is bound by prakriti and influenced by prakriti as well. Purusha can never be influenced by prakriti. Therefore, Purusha is Maheshwara, is free, is moksha. That's why as body, you will never be free. As mind, you are never going to be free. You are never going to be free and independent. You can develop a certain resistance, force, vairagya, howsoever, equanimity, but you are never going to be 100% immune from the experience your body-mind experience or goes about having in this world. The world will always affect the body-mind, even the planetary positions, they say. Some other people, certain things are going to happen. Okay, he's talking about planetary things. And the planetary change will indicate your prarabdha. Prarabdha will affect the body-mind, whereas the Purusha remains unaffected. Somebody has written, many people read in a scholar, what is that? Maheshwara. When I learn to separate myself from Prakriti and its attributes, I, the Jivatma, will itself get the name of Paramatma. So I'm called Jivatma. Then I take on the attributes of the Prakriti and I talk about my date of birth and so on. The attribute I am Jivatma, but when I take the attributes and understand they do not belong to me, then I receive the status of Paramatma because the attributes belong to Prakriti. We need to hand over unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. We need to live within Mithya Ishwara what belongs to Mithya Ishwara. We don't want to superimpose Mithya and Satya either. Neither. What belongs to Ishwara, we live in Ishwara. These attributes belong to my Ishwara Prakriti. The attribute I am is called Paramatma here. Attributed I is called Jivatma. Whether I am attributed or attributeless will depend upon whether I internalize this knowledge or not. But even the wise person will say, I am of the nature of Paramatma. But my inferior nature as a body-mind-sense complex is of the nature of Prakriti. My true nature is Satchitananda Paramatma. Therefore, the ignorant person is Jivatma, the wise is Paramatma. Who says? Krishna says Paramatma. The very same I am called Paramatma. So I want to say something about that. In the practical terms, the yani, we can call it a Yanni, the one who has got this knowledge, is the one who is so grounded into reality that knows that freedom belongs to its true nature as consciousness, not to the body mind. Therefore, it is no longer afraid of losing the body mind because its true nature is limitless conscious existence. In analogy such as a river understands its true nature as the water that merges back into the ocean, which is the biggest reservoir of water, is not afraid. That is my true nature. So the Jnani is the one who understood that, but at the same time, it understands that the only thing it does, the palan of having this knowledge in regards to its true nature, is that the experiences of pleasure and pain are going to be minimized, or let's say, if before you were living like that due to the identification with punya papa or experience, and now the experience do not do much to you, the mind becomes strong because the mind understood its true nature. It does not subject itself to those fears and desires for fear of papa and desires for punya. And by facing crises and adversities, the mind holds the knowledge of its true nature in a way that that kind of papa is minimized, largely minimized due to this force. The force comes from the understanding of one truth nature and the maturity that says what belongs to prakriti belongs to prakriti, and prakriti is going to produce the body mind, and the body mind will always remain to a certain degree subject to pleasure and pain. It's unavoidable. But the way we deal with it is what changes. If we have the knowledge, we have that so-called balance and strength, force Swamiji talks about, which allows us to accept everything as prasada. This is a Mahavakya verse. Jivamatma is equate to Paramatma. Therefore, this verse is another Mahavakya verse. Previously, we had another one. The next verse. You guys have any thoughts, any comments, any question, any contribution?
I've been thinking about what you started with and this does the jnani still continue with nididhyasana and that kind of deep meditation, or when the jnani acts in the world, does Brahman just overtake that mind?
Well, it will depend, I would say, case to case, So I can talk about my experience. In my own process, I see more and more maturity and purification takes place. As I often say, the self-knowledge, self-recognition marks a kind of a new process by which the spiritual purification, elevation accelerates. Okay, so one may have the impulse to go back to the world and enjoy the world from a different perspective. And now I know this is Prakriti and my true nature is Purusha. I am the true illuminator and so on. And I begin to experience life in a totally different way with a sense of detachment, equanimity, and so on. But after some time, that gets normalized. It's normal. And then and then what the yoni is gonna do, My experience is that the yoni wants to be associated to Brahman, to Ishvara, to the scriptures. The Unyani wants to talk about this Purusha as the only reality. And this is a form of Nididhyasana. Okay, when I don't have the possibility of sharing this knowledge, I'm listening to this knowledge. I listen a lot to the scriptures, to the audios I have, because it's what gives me the most pleasure or inner satisfaction, and that which truly allows the mind to be in a better state of more samadhi, without having to go and sit, close my eyes, and doing it. Just I don't do this since 20 years or so, or 15. But association. If you have the opportunity to share this knowledge, it's a great kind of sadhana, as Swami Dayananda used to say. So otherwise, you just keep yourself surrounded by this knowledge, and there enters a kind of training, which is you start experiencing this Purusha, this Brahman, this Ishvara, around you. So lately, I look at my life and I see that my life, my house, has become more and more like a temple. You understand? It's more and more like a temple, and I start feeling more and more the presence of Brahman, Ishvara all around. And it reminds me of Swami Dayananda, kind of 15 years ago, when he was about to leave his body. There was some video circulating the internet of him coming out of a coma, and then the disciples repeating some mantras, some bhajans around the name of the Lord, and he was coming out with the minimum level of energy, and chanting with them, and then he would go off again, and So and it goes back to remind me of once we begin seeing this entire Prakriti manifestation as not apart from Brahman, it is fundamentally is Purusha. You see everything as Brahman, as Purusha. And then it's a growing phenomenon, the feeling of reverence, love, and gratitude for everything. And this is one of the palans, because fundamentally, the ultimate palan of life I'm always romantic and I get emotional when I talk about those things. The ultimate palan of life is to love, to feel love. And as we grow into this love and appreciation to this Purusha, the more we reap this palan, which is feeling love and respect and appreciation for everything. So bottom line, so we should never fall for the concept that self-knowledge or moksha is a status that once one gets it, and then one does not need to do anything. So the suggestion and the instruction is to remain associated to the scripture, to the guru, to the sampradaya, to God, to Brahman, to let this seed of wisdom to grow.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. He who knows thus Purusha and Prakriti along with the gunas is not born again in whatever manner he lives. So you need to know what is Purusha and what is Prakriti. We have gone through the entire logic. And then these understand must be clear. And we have an exercise there, which is the Atma Natma Viveka, Purusha Prakriti Vivek. Why? Because we need to from moment to moment discriminate Prakriti as a superimposition upon that which is free, full, whole, and complete and independent from whatsoever superimposition. That gives the body, mind, sense complex a sense of freedom and equanimity, vairagya, strength. So we need to know what's Purusha, we need to know what's Prakriti, and we need to go through the process by which we begin establishing a hard and fast knowledge that my true nature is Purusha and not Prakriti. So we have to know what Prakriti is along with all the gunas and the elements and the properties and the attributes. But if you know that you of the nature of Purusha, consciousness, it's said that the person, the yani, is not going to be subject to born, to another birth. So let's see what Swam says. Sometimes I talk about that. I explain my take, my understanding. Because Jivatma is not born by itself, by chance, you know. It's born again because it wants to come back. He wants continuity in this kind of duality, you know. It has a lot of vasanas screaming for continuation, for more experience. But as we examine our expectations in the light of these teachings, we see that no experience is going to really set our minds with a sense of freedom, peace, and satisfaction and love we wish to live. And then why someone wants to be born again? And then it reminds me again of Abhidananda and other gurus say, why not? Since this world of Pratik is but Brahman, so if I know that it's a Brahman, it is not going to do any harm to me. Do you want to come back? Why not? I know it's all Brahman, so it's not going to do any harm. But you're going to be ignorant. Every birth brings with itself ignorance again. Doesn't matter. The knowledge is there in the causal body. It's going to surface in a certain age. And then I'm going to have the opportunity to love this Maya, Ishvara, Prakriti, by knowing that it's all Brahman. So therefore, who wants to be born again? So if you want to be born again, let this desire not to be around. I want to experience Prakriti again. I want to experience Brahman in spite of the superimposition of the Prakriti upon Brahman. I come here just to love the Lord and to sing the Lord and to appreciate the Lord and so on. Krishna here is pointing out the clear knowledge about Prakriti and Purusha will give a great feeling of relief from the burden of samsara. Here, it's all there is. You're going to be, oh my God, you know. So now I don't need to be afraid. I don't need to desire. I don't need to be preoccupied or being project, anticipating this and that. So my mind relaxed. The mind relaxed to a large extent. It's a relief, definitely. If life before appears to be a struggle, now it's not a drag or struggle, full of fears, desires, worries, and concerns. This is the greatest relief. if I have made this discriminative knowledge, and I have learned to claim, this is this is the part of the teaching that sometimes I like to edit, let's say. When I was, I'm going to tell a small story to illustrate a little bit. When I went to do a seminar in Carbondale, the seminar in which Lynn got to know me during that seminar, she was not present physically, but online. I met a woman, and this woman was all over the place wanting to be a Yanni. And but the Ahamkara was very strong. The motivation was coming from the Ahamkara, and that I could smell long, even from a distance, before I met her physically there. And then she was telling me that she was in India in doing some weekends or few classes with this or that Swami of the Dayananda ashrams. And she was telling that a certain Swami that later on went to Carbondale, and she was crazy for this Swami. The Swami told her, so you don't need to do anything, you just need to claim, 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 claim. And later on, I had to put my mind into that because this lady, she was claiming. And you see my students here in Brazil, a lot of people got into this concept that all there is to claim, to claim, to claim. I have a student here that I said, okay, you want so much moksha, freedom, self-knowledge. How are you going to go about getting this moksha? And then by claiming again and again, by claiming, you know? So this concept about claiming has to be taken very carefully, because this claiming, it's not something that the Ahamkara can fabricate or produce. You understand? It's very subtle, this subject. Because I have seen this lady. This lady later on went through a certain crisis, and she suffered from such a deep depression. She almost committed suicide. And according to her, she was very close. All was missing was claiming, you know. So in Brazil as well, some people, they bought into this concept of claiming. They start claiming, claiming, claiming. But that allowed me to reflect upon those things and understand that the Ahamkara cannot claim it. The Ahamkara does not want to claim it. Ahamkara wants to be the enlightened one, the Mahatma, the Jnani, and so on, you know. Once we have made this discrimination between Purusha and Prakriti, and then I learned to educate my mind to remember my nature as Purusha, my true nature as Purusha and not Prakriti. By doing that, I am claiming kind of, I am Purusha in the silence of my heart, in my mind, knowing perfectly well that when the time is right, that training may fructify as direct self-knowledge, which cannot be forced. The same way we cannot force a fruit to mature if it does not go through its timing process. You can claim in the sense, if I learn to understand these teachings and then assimilate the teachings, and then I have understood that I am of the nature of Purusha, and my body mind is of the nature of the attributes of Prakriti, belong to Maya Shvara. That's what we do through Kama Yoga. No? This is the discrimination, Purusha, Prakriti, Viveka, Jnana, Moksha. So the palan is the result. The palan is the sense of relief, Now life is no longer a burden, full of fears, desires, concerns, preoccupations. Now life is just something that appears as namarupas, but fundamentally is seen as of the nature of Brahman, the only reality. So one learns to appreciate Prakriti. One learns to appreciate Maya, not as someone who is hiding from us the truth, but is disclosing, is presenting through the miracle of life. Because we don't have a sense organ capable of seeing Purusha, but we can see the Prakriti of Maya. And by seeing the Prakriti, we can infer that there is a supreme Purusha, there is the Lord behind everything, to the degree that our life, our minds purify, refine, and becomes very subtle. This Purusha is so subtle, the mind must become subtle enough so that we can have this direct vision, darshan of reality. And then we can say, everything is Purusha. Everything is of the nature of Purusha appearing with Namarupas. And this Namarupa here, with this instrument here, is of the same nature of Purusha, the true nature of everything. So this is the palam. This is the benefit, a sense of relief, peace, and inner satisfaction and love. Okay, so we went over the time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate Om Shanti 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 Om Ishvara Purusha, the Lord, Brahman. We meet again. Can I confirm if I need to meet Thursday instead of Friday, you would be available or not?
I have to take someone to the airport Thursday morning, so I
Okay.
wouldn't.
Then we're going to make it on Friday. I'm going to make it work. Okay? We meet on Friday. Ishvara willing, of course. Namaste.
Okay, thank you, Arvinder. Beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Me too.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.